time again. Time for you to learn more about menopause in general and breast cancer in particular. I know I'm odd. Few women are as enthusiastic as I am about menopause. But hey, what's the alternative? If you're going to be menopausal for half of your life, you may as well enjoy it. I'm Menopause Taylor, and I'm a gynecologist. And unlike most gynecologists, I am on a mission to educate all women on the topic of menopause. It's the most neglected topic on planet Earth. So I give you an unbiased, complete education that empowers you to tailor the information specifically to yourself and make good menopause management decisions for yourself. I have no product and no angle, and I have no preference for how you manage your menopause. I just want you to do so with facts rather than fear. And I want you to be happy with your menopause management both now and when you're 100 years old. So this is video number 365. It's the 10th video in the breast cancer unit. And only the last 2 videos have been on actual breast cancer. The first 7 videos in the unit were on normal breast anatomy and benign breast diseases. In video number 363, I explained what makes breast cancer cancer. And in video number 364, I presented some statistics on breast cancer. Sort of. Mostly, I brought some interesting things to your attention pertaining to the status of breast cancer. And today, we're going to address the cause of breast cancer. If you have my book, either the first or the second edition, you'll find today's information in chapter 30, all of which is on breast cancer. But as usual, this video will go into more detail, so you definitely should watch this video also. Okay, so let's get started. Cause. I love focusing on cause. I search for the cause of just about everything. It's how I make sense of the world and how we live in it. For me, cause is logic. It's what enables me to connect dots. You know, I was one of those kids who asked why all the time. I just wanted to understand the reasons for things being the way they are. I mean, I was extremely obedient and I never resisted following any rules. We were a military family and there were rules for everything. But when it came to anything that involved logic or reasoning, I just had to ask why. And luckily my parents weren't ones to answer with, "because I said so," to anything. They always gave me a logical reason. The reason you always clean up after yourself as you go along is so that the person who comes behind you doesn't have to deal with your mess. So you do it for them, not for yourself. The reason we children played quietly in the back room when my parents had company in the living room was because the company came to see them, not us, etc., etc. In any case, I was always shocked and dismayed when I heard other adults answer their children's questions with, "because I said so." It just seemed like they were cheating their children out of real explanations. And I was always a straight-A student, but now, as I look back, I wonder if some of my teachers hated all of my requests for explanations of things I couldn't explain myself. And they were always the really difficult matters because I was pretty resourceful enough to find my own answers to most things. But I like to know the origins and the history that results in making things the way they are today. And I'm never satisfied when someone answers me with, "that's just the way it is." It's as bad as when your parents' only justification for something is, "because I said so." Adults answer with "because I said so" in specific instances. Sometimes there is no real answer. Other times they just don't know the real answer. There are even times when they simply disagree with the real answer. And in other instances, they just don't want anyone questioning their answer, or they don't want to have to justify their answer. In any case, I don't think it's appropriate to answer any question with "because I said so," regardless of the reasons for doing so. But surprisingly, when it comes to breast cancer, there's a lot of "because I said so" going on. And a whole lot of it is directed toward the cause of breast cancer. So we'll be spending quite some time dissecting the cause of breast cancer. And I won't be telling you to believe anything because I said so. So what causes breast cancer? Is the cause of breast cancer unique to breast cancer? Or is it caused by some of the same things that cause other cancers? In the unit on endometrial uterine cancer, you learned that endometrial uterine cancer is caused by estrogen. And in the unit on cervical cancer, you learned that cervical cancer is caused by the human papillomavirus. So now we need to address the cause of breast cancer. Well, if you're like me, you'll be very disappointed to discover that we do not know the precise cause of breast cancer. It's as vague as "because I said so." It is quite common to hear women with breast cancer attribute cause based on their opinion or need to blame something. And it's understandable that they want a justifiable reason for getting breast cancer. But wanting a justifiable reason when there really isn't one is a lot like the "because I said so" reasoning. So no matter how much women want to blame this or blame that, and no matter how many women say, "I know in my heart that such and such caused my breast cancer," we just don't know the actual cause. I find it odd that people say, "I know in my heart." Your heart doesn't know anything. It's just a big lump of muscle that functions as a pump. I think people who say "I know in my heart" are confusing their heart with their brain. And I'd love to know the origin of the claim "I know in my heart." I have a feeling it emanated in some way from "because I said so." Anyway, we do not know what causes breast cancer. But we do know that there are many different risk factors that contribute to an increased risk of breast cancer. Now, there's a huge difference between a factor that causes a cancer and a factor that increases your risk for a cancer. Video 157 was on cause versus risk versus association versus link. And I presented that video so that you'd have the foundation you need later on with regard to those terms. Well, this is the later on for which I was preparing you way back then. So instead of designating the actual cause of breast cancer, we'll be dissecting the risk factors so that we can determine how they might contribute. And no risk factor is the whole story. Do not assume that if you have one or even a few of the risk factors that you are at high risk for breast cancer. Instead, use the knowledge of the risk factors to focus on reducing the risks over which you do have control. So I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dears. I know you were hoping for a very direct and detailed video today. But since I'm the truth teller, you just have to know that we have not identified the actual cause of breast cancer. This is the disappointing "because I said so" kind of response to your desire to know the answer. So let me shed light on what we'll be addressing in the upcoming videos. First, we'll address the concept of risk. This is going to play a very critical role in your assessment of every single factor. Next, we'll discuss hereditary versus non-hereditary breast cancer. Then, we'll delve into a long list of risk factors, grouping them to make them more understandable. Today, I'm just going to show you the whole list in chart form, of course. Here's our organized chart of risk factors. The first column just separates the risk factors for hereditary breast cancer from those of non-hereditary breast cancer, because genetics changes everything. The second column lists the various subcategories organized by topic. And the third column lists the actual risk factors for breast cancer. But I will be giving you individual videos for these different categories and subcategories of risk factors. And as we do so, you will see some patterns that emerge that might just hint at the cause. Some will be more significant than others, but I'll help you make sense of all of them. And that will enable you to connect some dots and see some patterns that help you arrive at your own decision as to what might cause breast cancer. And it will also enable you to cast doubt on some of the things proposed to cause breast cancer. Now, I know you hate it when we don't know everything, but that's just the way it is. And that's not because I said so. You deserve real answers that make sense. So I'll do my very best to bring you as close as possible to a real answer. But be aware that the true cause of breast cancer has yet to be determined or confirmed. We just don't know everything. And more specifically, I certainly don't know everything. I research high and low to provide you with the very best information I can, but I do not know everything. And you can count on me to tell you when I don't know something. This actually reminds me of my past when I was practicing obstetrics and gynecology. You know, I've always run my office very differently than most doctors. With everything in life, actually, I look around and see how everybody else does things a certain way, but the way they do them just doesn't really work. And I find that the way people run their businesses and medical practices just doesn't work very well. But most people simply go along with the norm. I don't. So you know how you usually fill in a huge questionnaire about yourself the first time you see a new doctor? I mean, it asks questions about you, your medical status, your social status, etc., etc. And it's pretty extensive and takes a bit of time to complete it. Well, I've always seen that as the perfect way to get to know my new patient. So in my office, I always sat with the patient. She was fully dressed, and I asked her each question myself. And you know, I was always glad I did, because you would be surprised at how some women misinterpret the meanings of some of the questions and give you completely inaccurate answers. For instance, if you ask a patient, "Are you sexually active?" she will often answer with an emphatic no. But if I then rephrase the question and ask, "When was the last time you had any romantic or sexual contact with anyone?" she'll say, "Last night." So you see, the term sexually active means different things to different people. And by asking the questions and filling in the questionnaire myself, I set the stage for knowing and bonding with my patient while also ensuring that her information was accurate. So I always went out to the waiting room, greeted my new patient, and escorted her to my comfortable feminine office. And then I explained that I was going to ask her all the things that I ask all patients. And after gathering all her information, we remained in my office for any teaching that I wanted to offer or for any questions that she wanted to pose. And one day, after escorting a new patient to my office and gathering all her information face to face, the patient asked me a question, to which I cocked my head and said, I don't know. And she blurted out, I like you so much. And to which I was a bit surprised. So I asked, why? Because you're honest, she said. You don't pretend to know everything. Of course, I felt like asking her, well, how much time do you have? Because I can give you lists and lists of things I do not know. I guess it was just the opposite of because I said so. So I reconfirmed with her that I definitely do not know everything, but I assured her that when I do not know something, I'll tell you I don't know and work hard at finding an answer for you, or I'll direct you to someone who does know. So I will always be honest with you, too. I don't know everything, and I don't know what causes breast cancer, but I do have some theories, and I'll share them with you as we go along. But the answers are all yours. If you want to say something causes breast cancer because you said so, that's your prerogative. You get to manage your menopause your way, using this information any way you please. You do not have to justify your choices to anybody. So the summary is that we do not know the actual cause of breast cancer, but we do have a long list of risk factors that reveal some patterns that may hint at the cause. So let's stop here today and dive into a discussion of risk next week. And that will equip you with the mindset for assessing all these risk factors for breast cancer. Remember, no list or study is the whole story. No list or study includes the one and only you. So if you want to tailor all the information specifically to you, the thing to do is schedule a consultation with me at menopausetailor.me. You will be astounded and delighted at how much you get out of it. Please remember to subscribe here and to my newsletter, and if you're into social media, then you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Stories. Bye for now!